Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast is back on the air for Thursday, July 26, 2018. I'm Jamal. You can find me on the Twitter machine at Giant Crab. Here, Will Mahoney is with us. How you doing, Will?
Hey, how's it going? Good to be back after a wild week of travels and wrestling news going down, and I think we got a lot to cover tonight, it seems.
I think we do. We'll get to that in a second. 2 Chainz is with us as well. Speaking of travel, how you doing, sir?
Pretty good. Glad to be back. Glad to be rested. Body has adjusted back to Eastern Standard Time, but I will mimic Jamal, Will on that one, and there is a lot to catch up with.
Yeah, I think there is, and right off the bat, let's just go right into the biggest thing this year is, of course, WWE as a whole. I got to give the devil its due. They are expanded in ways that I didn't think were possible. They have an Australian event coming up later this year. They have the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, which was unprecedented for what it's worth. And a lot of the changes, SmackDown coming to Fox and stuff like that, they've been doing gangbusters. And now they announced that in October, the women's, Stephanie McMahon, who invented women's wrestling, in 7 days, and on the 7th day she rested. But in those 7 days, came an event, October 28th, WWE Evolution. Now, if you don't know, tickets go on sale August 24th on Ticketmaster, but it will be at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. They revamped it, and it just opened again like last year, where the Islanders used to play. And this is actually very interesting to me. And I guess the first question is, what do we want this show to be? Do we want a storyline-driven show that ties in with SmackDown and Raw activities? Or is this just a one-shot deal where we can bring back some of the classic or dream matches in the making? Should we fantasy book this, or should we continue the storylines and make it a traditional pay-per-view in that sense? Will, you can start it off.
All right. I think from the way the announcement went down on Raw on Monday, Stephanie kind of alluded to that I think we're going to get a little bit of both. She used that darn WWE tagline of then, now, forever, and said there'd be 50 stars involved crossing Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So we're going to have all the current people. And I'm guessing there's no way this show is going to go down without some very familiar faces returning and wanting to get a little bit of that spotlight. There's no way I can imagine this show happening without the Bellas somehow involved in it. Just, for better or for worse, we saw them at the First Ladies Royal Rumble. I can't imagine them not being part of the pay-per-view. So that brings up the whole idea of how the Rumble went. Okay, so the Rumble, we had Trish. Trish came back. We had Molly. There was a number of people who came back for that, and I don't think we'll see all of them, but I would imagine there might be a Legends match, or maybe they'll do like a crossover thing with some of like the older ladies taking on some of the newer ladies. But I'm guessing we're going to get a Raw women's title match. We'll get a SmackDown's women's title match. They said the NXT girls will be there, so probably an NXT women's title match. So that'll cover all the main people. And I guess we're also getting the Mae Young Classic finals there. So that's a whole lot of like the modern scene covered right there. Now the twist would be if maybe they did something interesting like, say, Carmella, if she's still champion by that time in October. Maybe something happens like Carmella defends the SmackDown women's title against someone from the past instead of someone currently. I think there's like total possibilities they could do something like that. So I think that right now with the show so far away, truly anything is possible, and there'll definitely be some, legends involved. It's just a matter of who and in what way.
Right. Well, Bayley's also has already made it known that she wants to face Lita, if that could be possible. And obviously there are some legends out there that, they could obviously call up. With that said, 2 Chainz, Lee, asked you, do you think that an event like this, is it the time right for WWE, or do you think that this is kind of a day late and the dollar short? A, because NXT has been doing this and women's wrestling since its inception, as we've seen with Emma versus Paige, and then of course all of the other all-women promotions, let alone shows. There are all-women promotions out there that have been doing this since day one. So for WWE, to do this right now, do you think that now is the time to capitalize on such an event, or should they let it grow organically, like with the UK scene that they're trying to create?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
Number one, WWE casual fans are in this entire universe of their own where they think that Stephanie McMahon meant that this was the first ever all-women's pay-per-view.
It is.
And it's rare that wrestling Twitter actually makes sense as a collective whole, where people actually came to basically knock people off that idea and exposing that, like you said, a lot of other promotions have all women promotions and done all women shows all in the past. So on that note, then whatever. But in the eye of what happened at the Greatest Royal Rumble, where women were excluded because of reasons, I think this is the right time to do so. But until I completely listen through your question, I also do think that is a smart idea to let it happen a little organically. And if I'm understanding what you're trying to say, or maybe what you were hinting at there, is that does the timing feel a little forced? It does, because it's like, hey, you were wrong, or there was a little bit of backlash due to the event that you did recently, made a lot of money at. You already announced another show in another country, whatever. How do you make up for the women? And we're supposed to be in this era of equality, and women wrestlers can do everything guys can do. At least seems to be their mission statement. So it seems like the redemption to the era of actually running that show, the Greatest Royal Rumble, if you want to deem it to be an error. But nonetheless, it's happening, and I think what I want to get from it is I think and another thing too, when you talk about like letting it organically build, like the Royal Rumble, the all women's Royal Rumble, that was a lot of fun, and they did say it was going to be the first women's Royal Rumble, but nonetheless, it didn't feel forced, and it didn't push the narrative and so on. It just legitimately felt like a good show with a bunch of mix-ups and tandems that we didn't probably know we wanted, but it happened. It was cool. So now that the fact that now we have to now really put creative in charge of booking that show, makes me feel that the organic factor is out the window. And we're going to get these 4 storylines that we probably won't care about. And it may, I feel it could tarnish the show.
Well, I agree with most of that. And I guess the question about the organic nature of the program, do we, and probably to both of you guys, do we trust WWE creative with building a historical, groundbreaking event for them? Now, we've seen when the Royal Rumble is different, because we know that whether it's 20 guys, 30 guys, 40 guys, or 140 guys, we know that it's going to come down to the 10 relevant wrestlers. So you can stick in Doink the Clown at number 82, or you can stick in Dean Malenko or Brian Hebner for no reason. And it's cool to see them. They did their thing and they're out. But with this event, we have an opportunity to introduce a slew of new women talent to WWE eyes. We have a chance to introduce a WWE audience to a different side of women's wrestling. The fear that I have is that this will be the Cruiserweight Classic all over again. It will be awesome within its own right, but it's not what mainstream WWE fans will be acclimated to. Again, going back to Paige and Emma, first NXT arrival. 5 years ago now, something like that. That's crazy. 5-6 years ago, but still, NXT arrival. We thought, and for the most part, we have been with NXT until they got to the main roster. We were expecting certain quality with NXT. It's generally lived up to that. The main roster is something totally different. Now, I guess my question is for the show, do you think in any way, shape, or form this leads to a women's sub-brand?
Ooh, that's actually a good question. Ooh,
I don't see that happening. I don't see them breaking the women off entirely.
Not necessarily whipping them off entirely, but it does feel like the reverse Cruiserweight Classic. WWE audiences don't really have any reference to cruiserweights, and all of the promo packages describe them as high flying and stuff like that. But then you get Ibushi versus Cedric Alexander, which isn't exactly that type of match, but it's awesome. And then, of course, when they get to the main roster and the purple ropes, it's, whatever it is. Right. With the women's wrestling, obviously, we're going to see a different of wrestling for the women. But is that something that the main roster, can they digest that? And if they do start a brand, because they do have a ton of women to import. Toni Storm's going to be there, and all the Mae Young Classic girls are coming in. We have the finals, so their eyes on them. There's already a slew of women's wrestling from Raw and SmackDown proper and NXT. They're saying that 50 women are going to be in this event. So that's enough to start a division.
Well, absolutely. The talent's there to start a division, but this also begs the question, running up to this show, they're going to have the show in Australia at the beginning of the month. Once that's done, this show happens at the end of the month. So to build this show being a women's only pay-per-view, what's going to happen to all the guys for those 3 or so weeks on Raw and SmackDown where they're building to a women's only pay-per-view coming up in a few weeks where the men are not going to be on the show at all? So are we going to get like a good few weeks of WWE TV that's going to be like heavily focused on the women? That how they're going to build this show is kind of a whole nother, kind of probably be a first taste of how it's actually going to be.
Which is why they either go with the route of just throwaway matches for prosperity, or they build it into a long end game. Mm-hmm. So if it's just October being 2 months away, they can get a lot of short things going and build some quality matches, and we'll see it or we don't. But if they're talking long game, going into the women's Survivor Series match in November, theoretically, or the women's Royal Rumble in January, theoretically, now we're talking a 5-month deal instead of a deal or an 8-week deal. So I guess the build of this pay-per-view will be obviously, well, it's key, obviously, because it's the build, but it will be interesting to see how they build it going forward.
Well, the one thing I also want to draw attention to is the fact that this is a pay-per-view, and because it is a new pay-per-view, it is what I like to call a glorified house pay-per-view. So in theory, there will be no build. There will be people announced and matches announced that are just thrown together. How to throw the Undertaker in matches and stuff like that. Well, I expect to see stuff like that. So there's going to be no build, but absolutely, I think it should, especially considering the fact that this does come within a month of Survivor Series, which is considered one of the big 4/5, and considering the things that they need to do there, to draw to run into the Royal Rumble, to run into WrestleMania, especially when you talk about getting the right women on the right brand and or having them on the same team and so on, because the big picture is always WrestleMania. And we all know what's the big money plan that they're looking forward to doing. That's the 4 horsewomen versus the 4 horsewomen. You're going to get other iterations of other big matches and stuff like that. They're going to have to start putting some of the pieces to the puzzle. And when they're having a big show like this, where anyone and everyone from any promotion, or any brand or legend or current superstar can all be on the show, this is the ample opportunity where it makes sense. So, but again, are they gonna build storylines here? No, because they're not gonna do it at the Australian show. They didn't do it at the Greatest Royal Rumble. They didn't do it at the Beast in the East. They didn't do it at any of these MSG shows. So I don't know why would I expect any different here.
The reason I would expect a little different, I think, would be just notice this week alone how heavy they hit this announcement. It was like every hour on Raw, they practically stopped the show and replayed the announcement. And then on SmackDown, they were doing the same kind of thing. The one reason this might be different in my mind is given who, of course, is credited with it, the birth mother of women's wrestling, Stephanie McMahon.
The Virgin Mary of women's wrestling.
Exactly. So, I mean, with her name on it, with it being her deal, that's the one thing that makes me think, this is kind of a totally different situation than the Greatest Royal Rumble was.
Yeah, and again, a Royal Rumble being kind of a throwaway event, the first 5 entrants and the last 5 entrants are really the only thing you need to care about and have implications going forward towards WrestleMania. The rest is just filler, an hour's worth of filler. But with this women's match, because they have so many, in-house talent, and I'm not counting the legends that they're going to bring in, they theoretically could and arguably should build something forward. Because it's a waste of 2 months of storylines on TV building up to the women's biggest pay-per-view ever, and they just said we're going to treat it as a house show. That's disingenuous by design.
I don't expect anything with WWE to go without some flaws, and I think the ultimate flaw of this was going to be creative booking.
Well, that goes without saying for WWE, but tickets go on sale in a month, so.
And I will say this too. Let's talk a little about the things we do expect. So we do know we're going to get current, past, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, blah 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 blah. Do you think that this should be an annual thing, or do you think there should be some type of, I don't know, trophy or something, in some type of a tournament or something styled in this, or do you think we're just going to get thrown together matches and whatever?
But this is why I think they should build it correctly with long-running storyline implications going forward. Because if they just wanted to throw it away, do a Queen of the Ring tournament.
Well, we're already getting the Mae Young Classic finals on it. So they're kind of, in a way, they kind of have that. I wouldn't do another tournament. I could see there being some kind of battle royal on there or something. Of course, there's been the rumors of the ladies tag team titles, which nothing's been said about yet officially, but we have a lot of time. We have a lot of time between now and then, though, that could still be a piece in play by then. I figure with 3 titles and the Mae Young Classic finals, that's like 4 big matches. I figure they're going to be hyping there, and that's not even getting into legends unless a legend happens to be involved, like I said, in one of those matches.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about a match. Let's fantasy book this a little bit. Give me 3 matches, I don't care what type of match, I don't care what type of stipulation, go as crazy as you want, but give me 3 matches that you kind of need to see on this pay-per-view, first women's pay-per-view in the history of all wrestling ever.
Well, the big name, of course, we haven't mentioned yet, of course, is Ronda Rousey. Ooh. I'm assuming she main events the show. I'm assuming she main events it, and my guess is she is probably winning one of the women's titles there. That's my assumption. I think before this show was happening, that was maybe going to happen at SummerSlam. I'm assuming they hold it off and they have that as the big crowning moment on the show. Now, whether that's against Alexa Bliss or something else happens between now and then, who knows? I kind of assume it'll be her and Alexa, and that'll be the blow off to their program. As far as kind of other matches, they teased in the Royal Rumble, and I'd love to see it. I would love to see that Sasha Banks Trish Stratus match they teased. That would be the Legends match I'd be really interested in seeing, with someone from the past versus one of the current ladies. Of course, Sasha's kind of got an on-again, off-again thing going on with Bayley. I'm sure that's also in play too. I guess for a third match, there's so many pieces here to work with. Probably something with NXT. You could do something. Now, of course, by then they'll have the UK show going. So like I said, we already mentioned Toni Storm and some of the UK ladies. So if they're going to highlight NXT, do you also highlight some of the NXT UK ladies like Toni Storm, and Jenny's going to be involved with that? I mean, they could totally have like some NXT UK women's match also on the show. Isla Dawn's going to be in the Mae Young Classic. Could be something involving all those ladies that we're not even, they're kind of even further down the ladder than even the NXT women are at the moment. So
I do expect NXT women to face some of the Mae Young Classic contestants and the NXT UK women. I expect them to all be in a tandem. I do not expect to see too much of NXT people versus main roster people, unless it's Bianca Belair. And with that being said, I'm not sure who, but I would love to maybe Sarah Logan. I would love to see them brush shoulders a little. That could be interesting. But I expect Michelle McCool to make a return. And maybe excuse me. I know one match I need to see. I need to see Nia Jax versus Tamina. I really need that again. Seriously. That was a good spot within the tournament of the Royal Rumble. I definitely want Molly Holly back. She clearly still has it. So I would like to see her work someone like a Bailey. That could be fun. And but Michelle McCool, I don't know who, but maybe Charlotte.
Even though
Charlotte's a big ticket and you want her in your highest match, but them two together could be fun.
Right.
Everyone's calling out for Lita. but nonetheless, and if Jamal hasn't already thought this up yet, we absolutely need on commentary Beth Phoenix and Renee Young. No ifs, ands, or buts. That 100% needs to happen.
Why wouldn't we have Beth Phoenix working a match?
I do not know. I don't know if she's retired, sort of say, but I feel like her cryptic tweets makes me seem that she does not desire to be back in the ring.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely. If we could get Beth Phoenix versus anyone, I'll be happy. So yeah. Also too, what's her name? Who was the first person announced for the Mae Young Classic?
First person announced.
Yeah, she's a returning Caitlyn. My bad.
Oh,
Caitlyn.
yeah, duh.
I expect to see her face somebody on the main roster, obviously because she's a vet. So
that would make the most sense that they would do something like that, where they would have like
her versus Natalya is a very safe match.
Yeah, I can totally see what you're saying, that they'll go with ideas like the NXT people stay within the NXT pool, and any veterans they bring in, they're the ones they mix up against either main roster people or against another veteran, or possibly do like a veteran, like a returning veteran against a NXT upstart that they really want to put a focus on, that they might be ready to call up or something. Yeah, that's probably the idea. And otherwise, they probably keep everyone relegated to their roster for the most part. It's probably the idea they're going to go with.
Yeah, and I think like if you look at the roster for the Mae Young Classic, I guess we'll talk about in a second. There's a bunch of people that clearly are veterans. And Mercedes Martinez can work anyone in that locker room easily,
right?
But I think that for exposure reasons, they're gonna probably keep people delegated to certain tandems.
Yeah, I mean, like personally, I think this is, if they're going to go big, I think they really should go biggest. And I think it would be interesting to see how they implement storylines within the pay-per-view itself and the build. But if this is just going to be a throwaway, hey, first time ever, Stephanie McMahon has done it again because she's a genius, then I need to see Jazz versus Asuka.
Ooh.
I don't know I know that Jazz is still taking matches and stuff. Do it now. I need to see Candice LeRae versus Ivory. Do it now. I'm saying if they're going to go big, they need to go that big.
Yeah.
Right. And then I need to see Lita versus Crazy Mary Dobson, or whatever they're calling her down in NXT.
Nikki Cross.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I forget.
I think she's main roster bound anyway, so I think that might be in their peripheral. But yeah. I absolutely think that outside of the matches that need to happen, obviously you do, if they're going to do this right, they need to build towards the future. I do agree that that you want Ronda to face Alexa Bliss. You also want Charlotte to face Carmella, and you want them both to win. And I think that
I want Charlotte versus Shayna Baszler.
Oh, you absolutely do. You want a lot of Shayna Baszler actually in this on that day if you could. There's a lot of people that you want her to but nonetheless, whatever it may be, you do want, and it makes me think Shayna Baszler probably will. Well, wait, when you win away Mae Young Classic, do you go? Is the championship against? Is the winner against Shayna Baszler that night, or is it just
said nothing like that? I think they're only going to crown the NXT champion. I mean, the Mae Young Classic winner that night. I don't think they're going to do automatically also have them get an NXT title match. I mean, I guess there's nothing stopping them from doing that if they wanted to, but I can't see them doing that. What I would do with Shayna Baszler on the card, assuming she's still the champion by then, or well, it doesn't even matter if she's a champion or not. Whatever involvement she has on that show, I would make a big point of making it clear to the casual fans her alignment and friendship with Ronda Rousey. Because they haven't really touched on that a lot recently. And plus, you're going to have all these people watching that just don't watch NXT. So if you're eventually trying to build to a 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen thing, this is your chance to show the MMA 4 horsewomen together. And also, heck, have some sort of angle between them, of some sort between the two groups, especially if you have any ideas of doing something for Survivor Series.
Also, too, you know what? Let's think about this for a little bit. You do have Ronda, I believe, as a face. You do want Ronda to get, I don't know, jumped, sort of say, by Alexa Bliss and her Goonies, and you do want Shayna to come out to even the odds, right? Also, too, I think Shayna should lose the belt at NXT Takeover Brooklyn to Kairi Sane. Just makes sense. Takes the belt off of her. Move forward to October. You have the alignment set up. You have now Ronda the champion. You do have now Ronda the heel champion. Charlotte the face champion. You have them, instead of facing each other one-on-one at Survivor Series, you just have them, their team versus their team. Because obviously the moneymaker for WrestleMania is them two versus each other for in a match. And I'm not sure if that's how they would do that. But either way, we do know that WWE want those two at heads at some point. Right. And even if the whole show isn't like storylines booked up to it, that's your main focus that you want to make sure that you do get to.
There's going to be 50 women in this pay-per-view event. How many 8-man or 8-women tag matches did we see? How many 15 women tag matches did we see?
Battle Royal.
They're just going to start it off with a 40-woman Battle Royal.
Yeah. I'm sure there's going to be something like that in there. 10-woman tag. Lumberjill match or something to just get a whole bunch of them out there around the ring to like throw people back in, something like that. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. Got to fit them in there somewhere.
I hope so. Well, let's move on quickly to another backstage rumor report. Hulk Hogan's being reinstated by the WWE. Wow. So that in and of itself is another topic. But
did you say this is a rumor?
Yeah, it's
not a rumor.
I know.
Okay.
I know. But what another thing that's been talked about is Hulk Hogan being. I want it to be a rumor because why is this happening?
Well, wait. Before we jump to the worst part of this conversation. Just a quick question I wanted to throw at you guys about the Mae Young Classic. I believe they got about, I don't know, 16 people already announced. Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. About 20 people announced already. I'm just wondering, is there anyone else that do you expect any, like, because it is of 32, so they're lacking about 12 more people. Do you think there's anyone on the indies that's going to be a huge surprise to be in this tournament besides anyone who's already sort of affiliated with WWE already? Or have already like worked with WWE? Like, do you think they're really going to pull somebody like out of the sky here?
God.
No.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone out.
No. I obviously they have their the feelers out there, you know, making the calls and making the towns and doing the research. But you're not going to see like some 8th round draft pick come out of like, you know, Boise, Barber College and walk onto the team. I don't think we're going to get anybody that that far flung down the ladder. I think there's a lot of talent out there. There's a lot of word of mouth out there. And people that will be announced will be people that have been seen before on television. I don't think it may not be a who's who, but I do think it's going to be like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Go for her.
Yeah, they're recycling a fair number of names from last year, and my guess is, I think if there was going to be any big, probably the biggest surprise was Io Shirai, and just keep picking her up officially. So I think that's who they're banking on as the big outsider who hadn't, appeared there previously.
She wasn't even a surprise to me because I mean that we knew they wanted her.
Right? Yeah. We knew the interest was there, but we had never seen her like on any WWE TV previously.
Yeah,
the main thing. So that's someone coming in for the first time.
Yeah. Karen Q is also another one of that sort of never seen in WWE TV.
Right, but that's what I mean by like, oh yeah, okay, good for her. It makes sense. But it would be a surprise if they pulled somebody out of India or they pulled somebody out of a very small but profitable.
They got the one girl from India that's going to be in it, Kavita Devi. She was in last year's tournament. She got but I'm also been thinking like, who has a significant other in WWE that they could actually try to work on as well too, and then that made me think of Ariel Monroe, and I was like, well, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool. But like, what would be surprised? Not because she doesn't deserve it, but if like Lufisto showed up, make it happen, WWE. But that would be a surprise.
Yeah, right. Anyway, I look forward to it. I'll be down there for it. I would love to see what the stakes are going to be, and I think it should be a good 2-day tournament. And I think also too that no matter if someone's out in the first round, they got a lot to look forward to because in October they might get that call again and say, "Hey, we got an all-woman show, and we need a lot of you guys here. So what you going to do?" And speaking of what you're going to do, back to what you was going to say, brother.
Oh God. Let me ask you this about your Mania Classic. How much were your tickets for the 2 shows?
Same as last year.
What, 30?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That doesn't make any sense.
Giving them away.
If I can have a second event, I'm still pretty pissed about the whole deal. Now, granted, I'm in the building. I do have GA tickets, but like the fact that like you couldn't even get front row tickets because Full Sail was able to buy them the night before at their box office, and all of them bought all the tickets. And even if they weren't even going to go, you have to know that if you were there and you had the opportunity to buy something that no one else can go to or buy tickets for yet, you would buy for the simple fact that you could resell. So the whole front row was just completely gone as soon as tickets won't sell. Absolutely a tragedy how they did that. But nonetheless, 2 shows, $30 total, $32 and something cents. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it would be interesting to come back in a month to compare with how much the women's one-night women's pay-per-view is going to be in October. I do plan on going up to Long Island for that.
I was just about to say, I was thinking about it. I've never been up to Long Island. No, I haven't. I didn't think so. But I would assume this has to be on live on the WWE Network, considering that the conclusion for the Mae Young Classic is going to be on it too.
No, it's definitely a network event.
They said it's a pay-per-view, so it's the first women's pay-per-view. So I think it's right. I don't even think it's going to be network exclusive. It's going to be on traditional pay-per-view and everything. It's considered a big show.
See,
Right.
that's the power of Ronda Rousey right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stephanie
Easily.
McMahon invented women's wrestling. Ronda Rousey would not be here
Hey,
if Stephanie didn't do what she did.
Matter of fact, do we see Ronda Rousey in any match? I mean, not Ronda Rousey. What am I saying? Stephanie McMahon.
Oh, it could happen.
Stephanie McMahon is single-handedly winning the women's tag team championships.
Either that, or she will be seated on a throne at the entranceway for the entire night, and every woman will have to bow to her on their way to and from the ring.
She's going to be like the judge from the Iron Chef, like the grand Iron Chef, and like the pantsuit on the throne.
Yep. There you go.
All right, my bad. We can get to the other stuff.
Right.
No more interruptions.
Okay, so Titus O'Neil and myself we're not really buying the Hulk Hogan backstage policy. And Titus definitely went on to Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM, and kind of made his feelings known. Mark Henry is a co-host of that program, Busted Open Radio, and basically they agreed that Hogan's, whether it was recorded illegally or not, the fact is that he said it is problematic in and of itself. And Hogan's apology was more like, not, I'm sorry for saying these things. It was, I'm sorry I got caught. And when you're looking at a guy like Titus O'Neil, he's like, bruh, come on.
Yeah.
And I understand that. And now, unfortunately, with Hogan being allowed to come back and, time being the healer of all things, where do we go from here? Will there be can WWE do enough whitewashing? And I mean that, as I say, to make Hulk Hogan be the Hulkamania Hulkster that people know and love? Or is it just going to be rough? Really?
Well, they haven't dared to put him on TV yet, which is noticeable. And heck, all they really did was put out the announcement that he's reinstated. And I guess that was them kind of dipping their toe in it to see what kind of reaction it would get. And since it did not get a good reaction, it seems like they've gone radio silent on it since then. I kind of get the feeling that their entire thinking with this Hogan return was they were just thinking about, well, are advertisers or sponsors or any of them going to have a problem with it? Nah, I think they're going to be okay with it. And so they went ahead and did it, but they never took into account like their own locker room and their own roster of guys and the people that actually even worked there. And they were just thinking about money and not even thinking about, well, hey, what about the boys in the back? Do even any of them want him around? And since there's already been people, when you have it's rare you hear people in WWE speaking out against the company, especially publicly. And for the New Day, or is it Titus or anyone to be taking any, even the slightest bit of issue with it is that's very not what happens publicly when WWE makes a move on something. So I think they very much now, after the fact, realize, oh damn, this ain't going as smooth as we would have hoped, and rightly so. Like you said, it's been one huge non-apology.
Let me ask you this. Speaking of Titus himself speaking out publicly about this, though Titus said it, and he is a WWE superstar, arguably of note, do you think that a bigger star should be more forthcoming with their feeling of it? For example, not necessarily Roman Reigns, but he's one of the biggest guys they got. Do you think that it's up to them to say and denounce actions like this? Because Titus is the guy that he is he's at the forefront of stuff like this. He got in trouble with Vince McMahon for literally crossing the boss. In a chivalrous moment that he had took a problem with. He's given talks about moments like that where he had to step in because he felt compelled. And now you have Hulk Hogan come back, and here he is again talking about feelings that he feels compelled to speak about. But the other guys in the locker room, do you think that it should be made by somebody with more clout, or do you think that WWE is kind of listen, we get it, we'll make it go away. Shut up.
Well, the New Day put out a statement on it, and as big as presence that they have, they had a statement. I think it was like the very next day, since they are getting immediately asked about it online, and they put out a written statement. I guess Kofi put it out, and Big E and Xavier Woods all said that they were in full agreement with it, and that was kind of like this is the only thing we're going to say about it. Here's where we stand, and expressing what pretty much the same kind of feelings, that they're kind of like, okay, we're not really buying what you're saying, and this isn't, been a proper apology. And to the I mean, they're obviously way higher on the totem pole than Titus O'Neil is. But merchandise alone, the money they bring into that company.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop treating Titus like that.
He's gonna stop stealing checks.
He made his money at the Greatest Royal Rumble.
That's true. That's true. Got a whole T-shirt out of it.
a star was born that day.
Yeah. It definitely was. I do agree with Will. I think that first of all, we know that strictly from this story too, that words can be career suicide, and I think that people know
rush about that.
Yeah, exactly. And people know there's a lot of things you can say here. A lot of politically correct things you can say. And I think there's definitely a good audience of people who has a substantial platform in order to provide the correct answer to this. But I do think for what has been done, the New Day has taken a very good approach, an open letter from the three of them, explaining their feelings towards it, but lack there of acceptance of it. And I think that is fair enough for them. Titus' other half, I feel like now he's being super vocal, and no one can say he's wrong. But he's also taking a lot of courage, considering the fact that he gave Vince McMahon a handshake and he got suspended for a while. So you have to take into fact that what he's doing comes from the right place, and hopefully people perceive that to be right. But it's also very dangerous for his career. But again, he's not saying anything wrong. I think what's going to end up happening here, and we did hear that Hogan did go backstage and verbally apologize to people and stuff like that. Yeah, I get it, but it's not going to change the fact that people remember what you did.
But he verbally apologized. But the thing is that he's not apologizing for casually using verbiage that is deemed by many circles in any context hateful and inappropriate. He's genuinely apologizing for the fact that he was caught. I mean, it's like saying, I know your house burned down, and I should have been playing with matches, but I didn't create fire. Just saying, I didn't create fire.
Yeah, that's the weird thing I was hearing about from reports of what actually happened backstage, was that the approach that it was given was that, like, hey guys, here's Hulk Hogan. We're happy to have the Hulkster back here, and he wants to talk to you about what happened to him and how it's really important that you watch what you say at all times in this social media age. And it's like you're focusing on the social media aspect of it and how you got to watch what you say when there's cameras around and being recorded, and not on what he actually said. That's how I heard it was, like, kind of approached, was like, this is our social media training for WWE Superstars moment presented by Hulk Hogan, and he's going to teach you about the mistake that he made. And it's like, that's not what he's supposed to be there for. It's like he ain't saying he's sorry. He's saying he's sorry they were recording him.
Yeah, don't be like me, little dude. Make sure that the microphone is off when you say certain words.
Also, too, it doesn't help when you name drop Lil Wayne and anyone else from Miami as your source of why you felt that it was acceptable the first time. Like that. Look, it's not a laughing matter. It's completely serious. But Jesus, again, this is another case of WWE when they get caught in a bundle and they don't know how to come from under it. Same thing they did with the Fabulous Moolah Royal Rumble or Battle Royal, And they was like, oh, yeah, we're going to make it go away. And we're not going to name it anything because we're just going to just not know what to do here. And that's that.
I can't wait till he shows up at WrestleMania Access next year in New York with a T-shirt that says Hitler did nothing wrong. But he didn't make T-shirts, so it's okay. He didn't. What are we talking about here? Yeah, that guy can go piss himself. But on to better things, bigger and better things. The Miz and the Miz's. We all know that the Miz's background in reality TV. Now he gets his own show with his wife Maurice, and it actually did pretty damn well, beating Total Bellas in its first in its inaugural episode by about 600,000 viewers. I think it's at. So
yeah,
a million and change turned in for the premiere episode of Miz and Mrs. And now they're saying that it could be one of the more successful shows in USA in that time slot. So congratulations to the couple. I guess my question to you guys is, we know that the Total Divas is a thing. We know that Total Bellas is a thing. And now the Miz has his own show. Is there anyone else, whatever the show could be, would we want to see a reality show of any other personality? Arguably in wrestling, but definitely WWE.
Ooh, man. God, this is one of those questions I know darn well I've thought about it before and had a really good answer. Two James, you go first so I can think.
We absolutely want a John Cena show that involves John Cena day-to-dayness by himself. And what I mean by that is because the guy does a lot of good stuff in society. And he does cool stuff too, because and there's a show I want to mimic this off of, but I can't think what it is. But I mean, he does get endorsements and stuff, so he gets like cool opportunity to drive different cars, and we may be able to see some behind the scenes while he's filming Bumblebee and stuff like that. And today he's on the Today Show, tomorrow he's on the Tonight Show, stuff like that. And I think, and some of them make a wish things. Like, granted, he makes all those wishes, but how many do we actually get to see? I think that, and also too, he had this show American Grit. Like, there's a lot that he can provide in the show if we just got to get him in his natural, very comedic self, narrating the things he do day to day. I think that can be money. Also, too, to the Miz and Maurice's thing, they got it right. Put it right on after SmackDown. Before it used to be Chris Lee Knows Best, and then I believe it. No, matter of fact, Total D was on a different day.
Yeah, it's on Sundays.
Yeah,
Total Divas on a different day and a different network.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Either way, they got it right here because yes, it proceeds right after the show, and after SmackDown is 2 hours. Most people used to sit there for 3 hours anyway. But yeah, right after SmackDown goes off and the bitter taste of what it was, why not put on something that gives a good feel for you? So, I watched it. So and it was by mistake because I didn't even know it was coming on. But when I watched, I was like, cool, I like this. So yeah.
They were also really smart that it's only a half hour. So it's like it's going, and like just as you might be kind of getting tired of it, it's like, oh, it's going to be done in like 5 minutes. So I think that and the combo of putting it right after SmackDown was really, really smart on their part. God, now as far as who to give a show to, God, I mean, they did the Legends House thing before. We've done that craziness. I mean, the old guys have all kinds of crazy stuff. If Ric Flair wasn't so damn old, can you just imagine a damn camera crew following Ric Flair around on just whatever he's doing?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you talk about the John Cena thing and following him around, and he does a lot of PR, the Today Show, and all that good stuff for the company. It kind of reminds me of Will Smith's YouTube channel that he just started, where we just see him, a camera crew, we just follow him and whatever he's doing, whether he's promoting a new album or hanging out with his kid, and he flies to Australia to open up a golf course, and then an Independence Day at 9 is opening up, and he'll go do all of those things. And Cena's probably like the perfect guy for that. What I would like to see as a show, honestly, I think Matt Riddle is one of those personalities that, there's something about him and his character that I could definitely watch. Obviously, not on regular TV. That's more of an HBO or Showtime type of video.
Not even just that. It needs to be on Viceland because that that's their cup of tea.
Yeah, I think so.
I definitely. Yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah, I'd be down. I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
And also more Asuka. All the Asuka. Give her own damn network. I don't care.
I love her new hairdo, by the way. Just throwing it out there. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Thanks for chiming in.
Sorry, I forgot. I forgot.
Valuable contribution to the show right there. But I well, good luck to the Miz and Maurice and the Miz and Mrs. It seems to be off to a good start. You know who's also off to a good start out of getting out of Twitter jail is Tama Tonga. Like that segue there. So Tama Tonga goes off in a fan, gets blocked for Twitter for like a day or two, and he is out, and he is on the loose. He got his ankle bracelet on. It's a problem. So what's interesting though, out of all the people that could have responded to Tama Tonga is one Mr. Roman Reigns, not related. And so first of all, why is Thomas so angry? I don't know.
Why? No, here's the question. Why has no one asked, has his account been hacked? He's going ape shit right now on Twitter.
He's living the gimmick. He's bringing that firing squad to the Twitter.
And then a part of me is like, man, don't take it serious, because at the end of this, he's gonna say he was hacked. But yeah, that's not a thing, because this is really a thing going on right now. So
it definitely is.
Yeah.
And when Thomas, so Roman responded to something that Tonga put out there. Thomas' response to that was, "Got the hashtag snitch. Your bark can't seem to get you over in your yard for me to hear you. My yard has no fences. Come test your skills here anytime. Quote, jealousy is a bitch trait. What album is that from? Hashtag Roman the Rat." If we don't chant Roman the Rat at SummerSlam in New York, you have failed me, WWE Universe. Just saying. But
that's got to be a sign.
I'm drawing one. With that said, even though this is what it is, and fine, Twitter fingers and all that, is this something that we would actually want to see? This is out of character for Roman, because it's actually something he's doing that's interesting. But responding to a person in another company on the other side of the world, circles that definitely don't cross. How do we feel about other guys in WWE reaching out to other guys and cross-pollinating, or even on a very small scale? Obviously, it doesn't hurt anyone else, but how do you think the WWE's reaction to that could be? Do we think that WWE will actually tell them to tone it down and not get into these controversies like that?
It's definitely,
because Roman has more to lose than anybody else that's not in WWE.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. But look, let's just all remember that Roman has that ironclad contract where it's been a while since he's used his privilege in the situation. So yeah, he's doing this thing right now, and it's happening, and it's cool because yeah, it's nothing's gonna come of backlash to him on this. Like,
no, I'm not saying about the backlash, but I'm just saying, like, just in general, the fact that you have Roman acting more or less out of character,
yeah,
not only acknowledging another company, but actually responding to the flames that Tama Tonga's throwing from across the internet.
Yes, it's we haven't seen something like this since he was kind of chatting at John Cena, which was in the same company. But yeah, I don't know.
It's been par for the course lately that WWE is acknowledging, outside stuff. I mean, heck, they acknowledged Kenny Omega and the Bucks for that whole thing with the New Day at the Street Fighter tournament. So I mean, they're definitely being more open to acknowledging outside things. And of course, the big question just is, how much of this is them making it known to these outsiders that, like, hey, we see what you're doing over there and we got our eye on you. So when the time comes that we can talk for real, don't forget that, you know, we're over here. I don't know. I figure none of these things happen by like just random chance. There's always some ulterior motive involved, I figure. But
because it's wrestling and everything is so calculated, I got to agree with that in general. But I do think that if you have somebody that plays by different rules, and obviously the OG Bullet Club guys do, and the WWE and their brand does not. Now that we have something like this happening, and again, nothing will come of this specific thing. But if you do have a legit, you know, somebody works themselves into a shoot, and now we're talking, hey, we may need the Shield versus OG Bullet Club. That needs to happen at whenever. Great Balls of Fire. But these things got started. And obviously it was a part of the program between Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, but nobody saw that coming. And it was a Twitter thing that was turned into a work.
That's true.
So my point is, no, there's no way in any of the alternate universes that I think that exist that we'll see Tama Tonga and Roman Reigns as themselves in the same ring in a one-on-one match.
Agreed.
Let's just clear that right now.
Agreed.
But what I do think that on a lesser level, maybe The Miz calling out Jay White, or maybe, you know, Bushi versus Bobby Lashley, or something like that. You know, something on a lesser level where you go, uh-oh, I think this may be going somewhere. And on the surface, you got to think between Tama and Roman, uh-oh, what if before the sun explodes, this actually did go somewhere? So, you know, obviously it's a thing that, you know, it is what it is, but WWE, do you think that they're actually, is this something they should be concerned about?
Nah, they don't care. Roman's fine. He got, like I said, he has the pass to do whatever. There's nothing to be made of that. And they're obviously the players in the game, so they can hype. He can do all the trolling he want over there, and Roman can respond all he want. But this is not going to manifest absolutely nothing, at least on Earth 2. That is.
No, if they had any issue with it, obviously they're gonna immediately be like, "Hey, knock it off," and it's gonna be done. And the tweet would probably be deleted. You know, a once in a while thing. They ain't sweating that. But yeah. I think there is something to be said for having like some of these lower like mid card guys that, you know, are in desperate need of something, or desperately, you know, any kind of spark or personality you could give some of these lower guys that don't get much TV time to do something like that occasionally, you know, especially if you got your eye on someone and they might be coming in like in a couple months, kind of plant some seeds, like, you know, ahead of time that, you know, hey, if you want to do something, I see you over there, Juice Robinson. His name is coming up as possibly being on their radar if they said something now, and months from now he comes in. I mean, you know, it's something to do with like to put some interest in some of these guys that they have on the roster that aren't doing much of anything.
Yeah.
So do you think that this is something not that we need to see more of, but we should see more of, since WWE is not exactly giving the guys the push that everybody can't get that major push,
right?
But because of outlets like Talking Smack, and not everybody has everybody on their Instagram accounts and the stories and stuff, should more people take risks like this? Say a Todd Dillinger or somebody like that, where it's not like, well, let's see if I can get something started, or is it just better to play it safe and just, you know, go full on Titus O'Neil and collect checks?
I can't believe how many times you said Titus O'Neil today on the show.
He made news. We got to talk about it.
Yeah, well, he also made news of the century at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and I don't recall you saying anything about that.
No, we definitely talked about that. We definitely talked about that. I mean, if you don't know what we're talking about, Titus O'Neil had arguably the greatest entrance ever into any ring in the history of ever.
into under a ring.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's running to the ring, and he trips. Fuck, Sin Cara has never had a better entrance than Titus O'Neil. It is that level. And he trips, and he basically slides face first under the ring apron. And it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. And we definitely talked about it. But, yeah, I mean, the whole Pennywise from It thing and, you know, being under the ring, and Titus got spooked and slid under there. No, there's so many memes. So many memes.
Well, yeah, look, my point is just so that none of that. Look, nobody should be taking that Twitter war serious. It's funny, and it's not going to go anywhere. So, yeah, because at some point we're going to see more people reaching for feedback and comments like that, thinking that's going to be their way in. And yeah, good news and bad news. Good news is you'll make wrestling Twitter happy, and yeah, you'll end up on a few message boards and on Reddit and all that other stuff. Bad news is Vince ain't looking for you.
Right. I mean, it doesn't really mean a good guy. Well, that being to be fair, Vince is a money man, and you know, stranger things have happened for the money. So I'm not saying that, you know, we're going to have a New Japan WWE show, you know, co-branded show. But then again, I never thought I'd see Hulk Hogan in the WWE. You know, I mean, I thought that he was on Chris Benoit status, and nobody talk about that man.
Fair point.
So, I mean, not only is there that, you know, NXT is basically the Ring of Honor that we all hoped it would be. You know, Evolve has a working relationship with WWE. They're taking over the MCG in Australia. A lot of craziness has happened in WWE and will continue to happen over the next 18 months or so as they transition back into network television. So, never say never. And if it makes dollars, then it makes sense to Vince McMahon. If we see red shoes in the WWE ring, then
that's what it is.
Stranger things have definitely happened.
They're going to need something when they make that move to Fox. You never know. You never know.
Right. I mean, we might just see OG Bullet Club just hack through the ring with like a, you know, Samoan, a Tongan like sword or something made out of wood. Start slashing everybody.
Well, if the rumors are true and everyone that saying that a lot of the New Japan guys may go back, then hey, the roster space is open, so who knows? But as of right now, all this is dead.
Of course it is. Of course it is. But it's good to speculate. But remember, when it does happen, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
One last thing I do want to talk about, of course, is this weekend. It is Saturday. Oh, it's Saturday. July 28th, 2018. It is it's Harlem Nights without Eddie Murphy. But it's Nova Pro Wrestling's second July show, Harlem Nights, 8121 Arlington Boulevard in Fairfax, Virginia. It's at the Elks Lodge of Arlington. Doors open at 7. Bell time is 7:30. And, of course, the front row. I hope you got them because they're gone. Front row is definitely gone. So hopefully you will be there in the front row. Just really quickly before we wrap this thing up, is there anything that we're looking forward to the most from Nova Pro's latest show? Or actually, a better question is, what's your match of the night?
I was just gonna look up. You go ahead, 2 Chainz, while I looked. I'm trying to remember what the whole darn card.
Gresham and Thatcher, easy.
Okay. Can't argue against that. Gresham versus anybody. Easy. And for me, I know we talked about this before, and I'll say it again. Sage Phillips versus Friday High. Sage is one of those guys that absolutely continues to prove himself. And I know that I said this before. I think he's the anti-Logan Easton Laurel, but still equally talented in the ring. And Freddie High, we know what he does, and Sage Phillips is in big freaking trouble if he doesn't do his homework this coming Saturday.
That's the match I was going to say. You beat me to it, so I'll switch it up since I can't do Yehai versus Phillips. I'm really excited about that one. I'll go with what's got to be the most unpredictable match on the darn show, I'm figuring. I mean, we're going to have Tim Donst probably, hopefully, dropping the safety first shtick for the first time in a long time for a street fight with Nick effing Gage. And I don't know what to expect. It's the first time Nova Pro is running the Elks Lodge, and those two, it might be the last time. I don't know. And there is going to be alcohol in the building. There is the first time Nova is running a show with a bar, and we're going to have those two with the chains off. And who knows what is going to happen. I don't think there'll be any safety first going down on Saturday at the Elks Lodge. Nick Gage and Tim Donst in Nova Pro. I'm gonna make sure I know where the exit is in case I need to run up out of there. Or I might have to jump behind the bar. One of the two. Duck and cover.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you hope that they get the top-notch building insurance for that one, because it's going to be, well, it's going to be a war. You know, Don's is insane. You never know what to expect from him, and Nick Gage may actually kill somebody. I'm convinced that it can't happen. But yeah, no, it's going to be an absolutely great show, and you do come out, but you won't sit in the first row because they are gone. But it is Harlem Nights at the Elks Lodge. First time ever for me going there. 81. Well, I'm sorry, that is the old other place in Annandale. They'll be in Annandale in August 24th. That's at the Volunteer Fire Department for Summer of George. But we'll talk about that, a little bit later. But coming up, of course, is Harlem Nights at the Elks Lodge of Arlington, on Arlington Boulevard, 8421 Arlington Boulevard in Fairfax. General admission is $20. There are no front row tickets left. Doors open at 7. Bell time is at 7:30. Check out Nova Pro's Twitter at VA Wrestling for more details. So yeah, that's going to be a good show, and it's Saturday night. Don't see why I shouldn't see you guys out there.
Right on. Yep.
I mean, if I can get back from Baltimore for the Orioles game in time, allegedly. But it's going to be a good time. It's I haven't seen yet in a minute, so it's going to be bananas. One last thing, I know that not this weekend, but next weekend, of course, is the Progress Show, an Evolve doubleheader up in Philadelphia. We'll talk about that a little bit later on down the road. But there seems to be an exciting August shaping up for wrestling. Obviously, SummerSlam is in about 3 weeks, to be preceded by NXT TakeOver 4. Yeah, TakeOver Brooklyn 4. Now, I thought last year was the last TakeOver Brooklyn. It's obviously not the case. Should there be, because WrestleMania is going to be in April in the New York, New Jersey area, should there be another TakeOver at the Barclays Center, or should we have it somewhere else? I mean, New York area gets a lot of wrestling from WWE, with the first ever women's pay-per-view coming to that area in October. WrestleMania is going to be there, and then, of course, TakeOver and SummerSlam have been in the last 4 years.
Yeah, SummerSlam's supposed to be going back to LA next year, so I'm assuming that means TakeOver's in LA too. I think they got another deal just like they did with Barclays. They're going to be locked in at Staples Center for a good few years now and have SummerSlam on the West Coast again.
Okay,
that's how I remember hearing it, at least.
I did not hear that, but that makes a lot of sense, and I'm okay with that, because what hopefully they do is the NXT run, like the series of house shows up until the big event, and then of course you'll have your Raw and SmackDown up until the big event, and I could be down for LA in August. So yeah, we're road trip. See if we can get that working out. But we do have this August to get to, and we will cover that later on down the road for the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. But again, we'll see you this coming Saturday night at the Elks Lodge in Arlington. First time ever. It's going to be a good time. Harlem Nights for Nova Pro Wrestling. Until then, I'm Jamal. Will, 2 James. We'll see you later. This is the Bill Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Until next Thursday, we out.